Sorry, I was on the line with Pepe.
He's like, but I think we're muted. We're ready. All, you ready? Carlos, we're ready.
You ready? All right, good afternoon. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 2023, and the time is 5:34 p.m. We are holding this meeting at Council Chamber, City Hall Building, 100 South Monroe Street in Eagle Pass, Texas. We will establish quorum. We have 3 out of the 5 members present. Citizens communication, has anybody signed up?
There are none.
Nobody signed up for citizens communication, so we'll move on to public hearings. Number 1, public hearing to consider the establishment of a permanent zoning classification as I, Industrial District, Service Plan, and Master Plan designation on the voluntary annexations of the land described below, being 1,322.07 acres composed of 552.19 acres in SS Sanders Survey 24, Abstract 824, 554.84 acres in SS Sanders Survey 25, Abstract 825, and 215.06 in SS Sanders Survey 26, Abstract 826, Maverick County, Texas, and part of 1,357.09 acres described as Exhibit A in conveyance to Bayern Junfin, and others recorded in document number 211-3541 of Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas, being 416.44 acres composed of 58.64 acres in SS Sanders Survey 25, Abstract 825, and 379.37 acres in SS Sanders Survey 26, Abstract 826, Maverick County, Texas, and part of a 160.95 acres tract described as Exhibit B in conveyance to Byron Junfin, and others recorded in document number 211-3541 of the Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas, being 297.98 acres composed of 185.45 acres in Antonio Sanchez Survey 512, Abstract 1170, 80.96 acres in SS Sanders Survey 25, Abstract 825, and 31.45 acres in SS Sanders Survey 26, Abstract 826, Maverick County, Texas, and out of a 314.63 acres tract described as Exhibit C in conveyance to Bayern Junfin, and others recorded in document number 211-3541 of Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas, being 112.09 acres composed of 34.57 acres in SS Sanders Survey 24, Abstract 824, and 77.52 acres in SS Sanders Survey 25, Abstract 825, Maverick County, Texas, and part of 136.52 acres described as Exhibit D in conveyance to Byron Junfin, and others recorded in document number 211-3541 of the Maverick County Official Public Records, Maverick County, Texas. So we'll open the public hearing at 5:37 p.m. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman, for reading all that. So the applicant here, the Junfin family, Byron, Sonia, and partners Zamora, Sergio, and Linda. This location's off El Indio Highway, FM 1021, near the intersection of 480. Various tracks are included in this, which you read the detailed description of, and the request is to consider establishment of permanent zoning annexation of this, and part of the legal procedure for that is also establishing a service plan and adding it to our city's master plan. Here's a copy of the voluntary annexation petition that was submitted for the total of 2,148.58 acres. Here's a very rough area map showing the tracks. It's composed of primarily 4 major tracks. This isn't getting into all the fine lines and curves of some individual plot, pieces of land parcels that are not part of this, but gives you a rough idea of those 4 areas that comprises the over 2,000 acres. Here is one plat that does show more specifics. This would be the side west of El Indio, so you have the Rio Grande River on the left of your screen here, and then going up and down here towards the right would be El Indio. So this is a section between El Indio and the river, and then you also see 480 curving diagonally through the screen. This is the other side of El Indio Highway, and then you have El Indio depicted in 480 there, and areas in blue show these areas that they were voluntary annexing. Here is a zoning map, and again, this area is down here. Here's 480 in El Indio, so you can compare that to the areas we just highlighted in the previous slides. This is a master plan that's been provided by the applicants and does show various different zoning types. Their current application and petition is for industrial zoning solely, all of it. We have discussed with them different uses, especially on this side of El Indio. This would be El Indio here, kind of near the middle of the screen. There is other proposed areas not owned by these applicants that we have been told or anticipate as being in residential or businesses. And so some of these areas in the future, when those get developed as residential, if current plans proceed that way or do happen that way, then those areas would not be ideal for industrial. However, in talking to the applicant and our city administration, there are economic incentive tools being implemented with this. PID, Public Improvement District, and TERS, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, where the city is getting into a development agreement with the applicants. And so we will be adding those conditions as far as rezoning areas that are going to be near residential to something other than residential. Could be business or residential. Those typically are compatible to be next to each other, but usually industrial is not compatible directly next to residential zoned districts. So for the interest of time and the particular situation of the applicant, they don't have all of these parcels legally defined. There's not a survey that shows that residential or this business district in purple versus the industrial. Right now it's just large tracts. So because we don't have those legal boundaries, we're not able to separate those zones in any other way. So that's the reason why it's being brought before you as all industrial. And their first use, that's first plan development, would be over 400 acres west of El Indio and inside of Loop 480 here that it is planned to be industrial, and they have immediate plans to develop that as soon as this annexation process is done. They plan to plat and develop. And so, again, based off their timelines and situation, they do want to start it as industrial, and they have agreed that the other areas will be rezoned before those are platted. And we will stipulate that again in the development agreement, so the city will have some assurances that does take place. And so as far as this plan that they've shown us, it does seem like a pretty good plan as far as the way they plan to lay out and utilize the land based off of other uses around. So a key part legally for doing this procedure is one, the permanent zoning, which we just covered as industrial, and this other key part of this, based on Texas laws, is the service plan. So we are adopting a service plan that's essentially saying the city can service this area. We're adopting it and going to be bringing it in to the city limits, and then we have to be able to provide city services to it. And so, according to state statute, it has to be no later than 2.5 years after the effective date of annexation, unless we want to propose, for different reasons, a later amount of time. But in this case, the area is undeveloped. There's no roads. There's nothing that would take large investment for the city to do, so I'll run through the list of things that state requires as part of those services. So police protection, we're able to provide police protection for this area. Fire protection, fire chief also responded and said that we can provide fire protection here. In fact, we already are providing that for pretty much the entire county, as well as emergency medical services, which is number 3. Solid waste is also provided inside and outside the county, so that would not impact the city. 5, operation and maintenance of water and wastewater. EcoPass Waterworks also services areas inside and outside of most of Maverick County right now. 6, operation and maintenance of roads and streets. There are no roads and streets in these 2,000 acres. There's some dirt roads that access some, the farmland and areas, but there would be no roads that we need to service at this time. So Public Works, Mr. Ibarra responded to us, assuring we can service this area. Parks, playgrounds, there are none. So the city is accepting or is able to provide the service plan for this area. There are several required meetings and public hearings. We're at the second one, September 14th, it's P&Z meeting, and there's 4 additional meetings that need to take place as part of this process to complete annexation. So those are the primary details. We do have a representative of the applicant, and I believe the applicants are also logged in virtually through our go-to meeting, but I did want to give them the opportunity. Do you want to go ahead and show some additional slides? Do you know what?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is James McKnight. I'm here on behalf of the Genfins. I'm a land use attorney out of San Antonio. So they've asked me to help with the annexation and zoning portion of this project. I'm also familiar with the PID and TERS part of it, but that is actually another law firm that is helping with that. So my job is primarily to talk about annexation and zoning and make sure that those processes line up with the city's goals for the PID and the TERS and for the city's goals for annexation. So I don't have many slides to show here today. I think it was most important for me to be here to answer questions, but I thought it was important to have a map. I wasn't sure what the planning department was going to have up. So they had a good map, but I thought I'd put this one up there too. I mean, the project is really something, is a passion project for the Genfins. They saw an opportunity that Eagle Pass needed a bigger hub for industrial, especially given its location along the highway and next to Mexico, and they felt like this was something that the city really needed. So from the very beginning, they knew they wanted this as part of the city, because they can develop a lot of this outside the city, but they actually want it to be part of the city, want the city to see the benefits of this project. And so we've been working for about a year with the city on how to do that. But at PID and at TERS, those incentives are really important to the project. But I think it's also important to point out that they are taking on a huge risk up front. The city is asking as part of this process. It started with us being able to try to get some of those funds up front, but at this point, it's going to be our funds starting the process. So, they're definitely putting their money where their mouth is to start this project on that first 400 acres that Placido was pointing out. The zoning, he mentioned that all of it was industrial. That master plan is something that we're working on, is pretty fluid. The people the vendors that have looked at this property already and are kind of chomping at the bit to get in on this are all industrial at the time, right now. And so that's within those first 400 acres. Those are the folks that we can accommodate right up front. But going forward, I think he did a great job explaining the fact that the city is putting as part of the development agreement that we would not be able to get any kind of incentives on this, on the future areas, unless it matched the plan. So the city has the ability to say, if you don't follow the master plan, then you won't get those incentives. And that's how the city is going to be able to control the fact that right now we're saying, oh, it's all industrial, but in the future we're going to make that commercial, but you have no real teeth to make us do that until the development agreement. So they're coming on different paths, the development agreement going to city council for approval and this annexation and zoning, but they're going to meet up in the same place and essentially feed off of each other. So we're asking for an industrial for everything just because we don't have haven't worked further on that plan, but again, the city has the ability to help us change that along the way. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Leslie, do you want to finish the recommendation, or?
So the recommendation from the department to the commission is to adopt an ordinance incorporating the approximately 2,148.58 acres of land into the Eagle Pass city limits, establishing the permanent zoning as I industrial district. The development agreement that we have discussed will stipulate future rezoning prior to plating, and this applies to sections of land abutting residential zone areas. And the service plan is acceptable by the city of Eagle Pass. Those are the key things we wanted to mention as part of this recommendation to approve this annexation. I don't know if we have anybody else. Jesse, I know has been involved with the project. Anybody else needs to comment?
Anybody in the audience wish to address the commission on this item? Does the commission have any questions?
Placido, is there a limit to the amount of acreage that we're able to annex yearly?
When it's a voluntary annexation, a person can voluntarily annex as much as they would like. It's very difficult at this point to do it if it's involuntary annexation, like if the city wants to do it, I guess you'd say against the wishes of the property owners. In those cases, I believe it's a maximum, it used to be a maximum of 10% when the city could go and do that on its own. I don't know, Jesse, you know those current rules now?
It's still 10%, but it's very difficult to do.
So there is a max of 10% if it would be an involuntary annexation, although the city it's much more difficult to do that now. But in this case, there's not a limit because it is voluntary by the owners.
Okay, thank you.
On the assurances that you were talking about, so are you comfortable that that's going to be enough in the future to make sure that the city, I guess, gets what it wants?
Yes, I'm comfortable discussing with administration, with city manager, Mr. Morua, and we feel this is the best way to proceed.
Okay. And then you talked about the service plan as well. The annexation would add significant amount of land to the city. So is city administration okay with the service plan, making sure that the requirements on the city are going to be met?
Yes, we feel comfortable being able to provide services to this area. It is a very large part of land that would increase the city's acreage significantly. Actually, Jesse, do you remember the percentage roughly? What was it? Almost 30% additional size that the city would make up with this annexation. So there is a lot of potential long-term, once commercial, industrial, and various things are developed here, for city to have really a large increase in property tax, sales tax, and various things like that.
Okay. Again, I'll ask if anybody in the audience has any questions or comments on the item. If not, does the commission have any further questions, comments? If not, we'll close the public hearing at 5:52 p.m. and we'll entertain a motion on the item number 1.
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation.
Motion to approve the recommendation
The
as presented.
recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Velasquez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gross. Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Number 2, public hearing on the request submitted by Jose A. Jimenez for the rezoning of Lot 12 in Block 39 of South Heights, 898 Kifuri Street from I Industrial District to R1, First One Family Dwelling District. Closing of public hearing and possible action. We'll open the public hearing at 5:53 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you read, Jose A. Jimenez is applying for rezoning of this parcel at 898 Kifuri from industrial district to R1 first family dwelling. It's a 9,000 square foot piece of land, fully developed area. All utilities and services are available here to the area. There are primarily single-family homes in the immediate vicinity. And we do have someone from the public who I believe will want to speak on this. So, nomás déjame terminar la presentación y si quieres decir algo, vas a
Sí,
tener.
yo soy el dueño de la property esa, la Kifuri, well, I've been there like 30, I don't remember, 35 years. I had a little business at Kirby vacuums, aging and a lot of stuff going against me. I decided to sell. The guy is buying, he wants to live there and he's gotta be residential. So that's why I'm asking for the rezone. But other than that, I got a lot of good years there, but time's fly.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it is fairly straightforward. So the industrial zoning, the railroad tracks are behind it. You can actually see it in the photo there on the right, and that's part of why the industrial zone it currently has. But the area pretty much all around it, right across. So this side of Kifuri Street was zoned that way because of the railroad tracks behind, but fronting it, everybody right across is zoned residential. So you can see the residential there in our zoning map. The red is indicating the industrial, which is what it is, and he would like to rezone it to residential. The area has the characteristics and feel of residential. It is appropriate. That request to rezone is fairly straightforward. So the recommendation from the department to the commission is that we prepare and adopt an ordinance granting the zoning district change from I industrial to R1 first family dwelling district for this lot 12, block 59 of South Heights at 898 Kifuri Street. 22 notices were mailed out and 4 were returned in favor. Any questions?
Any comments from the public on this item? Not any questions from the commission? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 5:56 p.m. and we'll entertain a motion on the item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Gross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. Any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor? Motion passes. Number 3, public hearing on the request submitted by Juan and Maribel Salazar for the rezoning of Lot 11 in Block 55 of Hillcrest Addition 2010 Olive Street from R3 Duplex District to R3A Apartment District. Closing of public hearing and possible action. We'll open the public hearing at 5:56 p.m.
Thank you. We do have the applicants here, and you may recall this property. We've discussed one just next to this. It's going to be this, almost all the same detail, but we'll go over the pertinent details here. When the applicant submitted, there was either miscommunication or misunderstanding with what was being requested. Their intent was to rezone both properties, or that's the way they described it to us, but from our staff and discussing with Maribel what they received and discussed over the phone, we were told or understood that it was just the second property, which we had already brought before you previously, with the intent that they were planning to still build maybe a single family on this one, but once the process was completed and we explained the other one got the rezoning and that was complete, and they asked about this one, we realized it was never included in any of those formal proceedings, so they're now bringing this one to rezone this as well. So that's the reason for us doing it, the way it came out is due to that. So this is a 2010 Olive Street. Juan and Maribel Salazar are the owners. They want to rezone this from R3 duplex to R3A apartment district to allow for construction of apartments. It's currently a vacant parcel, 7,500 square feet. There is a developed area with single-family dwellings and some multi-family dwellings. in the immediate vicinity. There are public utilities available and accessible to this lot. Here's a couple of street views of the area. This is a proposed or a concept of what they would like to do with the two lots. So using them both into making a apartment complex facility. And in order to do that, both lots did need to have the R3A zoning, which is, the process we're going through at this point. So this is at the corner of Olive Street and Brazos. You can see the current zoning of this corner was R3, which is a little bit different from some of the others, which are yellow residential. But it is trying to increase it from R3 duplex to R3A apartments, to where lots 11 and 12 can be used for apartment use. There are some other apartments in the area just behind them, lot 14, 15, and then we also have a very high density high rise also right behind them. So the vicinity does have apartment use within a few hundred feet. So the department does recommend to adopt an ordinance granting the zoning district change from R3 duplex to R3A apartment district for this property. Lot 11, Block 55, Hillcrest Edition, which is also known as 2010 Olive Street, subject to them complying with city legal passport ordinances. 25 notices were mailed to abutting property owners. 3 were returned in opposition. There is an owner who owns several tracts, and as in the previous discussion, some of the reasons for the opposition is the concern of additional density, parking, additional strain on the water and sewer facilities. But if you recall from the previous presentation, we did check with, for example, Waterworks, and looked into those things, and there were no concerns from our City Legal Pass team on those. So again, as we recommended last time, we also recommend here approval of this rezone request.
Okay, anybody from the public would like to comment on the item? Does the commission have any questions on the item? No. If no questions, we'll close the public hearing at 6:01 p.m. and we'll entertain a motion on the item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Velasquez. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Rose. Any further questions, comments? If not, all those in favor? Motion
I'll
passes.
raise my hand again.
Sorry. Motion passes. Item number 4, public hearing on the request submitted by Gonzalez and Gonzalez Real Estate LLC for the rezoning of lots 1 through 4 in Block 5 of College Hills Subdivision Unit 1 from B1 Neighborhood Business District to B3 General Business District. Closing of public hearing and possible action. We'll open the public hearing at 6:01 p.m. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the applicant here is Gonzalez Real Estate off of Megan Street. This is off of Main Street 277 near Fort Duncan Hospital. There are 4 lots of College Hill subdivision. They're seeking a rezone from B1 to B3 to be able to construct apartments. Our B1 neighborhood business district does not include apartment use. Therefore, they're seeking to upzone from B1 to B3. They are vacant, undeveloped properties. The size is 1.829 acres. There's primarily commercial, and there's a recently developed apartment that have been built in this vicinity, and then some other larger apartments a little bit further north. There is public utilities and access to all major utilities here. There's a couple of photos of Megan Street from Street View. Here's a depiction of those 4 pieces of 4 tracks. This is a preliminary site plan for as a courtesy to show. Again, this is, we're only talking about a rezone here, not necessarily this specific plan, but this is an idea that they may pursue if the rezone is approved. Again, it'll be for multifamily dwellings. The site area is showing some nearby apartments, highlighted in blue there on your screen. Our master plan does depict it as a business district, as well as our zoning map. But again, the B1 does not allow apartments, so that's the reason for this request. The department recommendation is to approve and adopt the ordinance granting zoning district change from B1 neighborhood business district to B3 general business district for lots 1 through 4 of Block 5 College Hills, subject to them complying with City of Eagle Pass Code of Ordinances. 10 notices were mailed out to abutting property owners, none were returned. Any questions?
Are there any comments from the public on the item?
No, if you've got any questions, I'll answer questions.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No.
No? All right, so if we don't have any questions or comments, we'll close the public hearing at 6:04 p.m. and we'll entertain a motion on the item.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation by the planning department.
A motion by Commissioner Gross, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. Any further questions or comments? If not, those in favor? Motion passes. Number 5, consideration and possible approval to ratify action taken on August 24th, 2023 on the proposed preliminary replat of Lot 6 in Block 18 of Deer Run Subdivision, Unit 4, including a sidewalk waiver from Section 23-64 governing sidewalks.
Thank you, Chairman. So this item is, I guess you could say some housekeeping. We had a typo on the agenda item itself. Every other document had the correct address, which is Lot 6, Block 18, as it's before you now. The public hearing, the notices sent, everything did have the correct detail of the address, but again, our agenda last meeting, when we brought this before you, it showed Lot 9 incorrectly. Again, it was a typo. So due to that, we're bringing it back to make it official, but we did go through the process of the public hearing, allowed people to speak on it, and the decision at that time was to approve, but just giving you very briefly the details. The applicant is Dirksen Engineering on behalf of developer Maria Teresa Guerra at 3674 Elk Lane, and they were seeking to replat, again, Lot 6, Block 18, Deer Run, Unit Number 4, this 18,000 square feet parcel. So showing a couple of site photos, aerial map. You can see on the right, there's making 2 lots out of it. Then there's another preliminary plat view of that same.
Excuse me. Unfortunately, we can't proceed with this item because it's not on the posted agenda online. So we would have to leave it for the next meeting.
Okay, I apologize. There was some confusion with that one. We sent one version of the agenda, then realized it was missing and sent a new version, but it appears we did not get the updated version posted. So due to that, I guess we will have to table this again and bring this back at a future meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So that we don't take any action on it?
No.
Correct. All right. So we'll move on to number 6 on the agenda. Consideration and possible recommendation on the closing of a portion of Madison Street at its intersection with Main Street and Quarry Street.
For this one, Arturo Marquez, our Economic Development Director, has the most information on the request here for Madison Street, and so invite him to come and share his presentation on this. You have some slides, right? Yeah.
Hi, good evening. Arturo Marquez, Economic Development Director. Just pulling this up. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of give you guys a brief update on what's happened, how we got here, and what we're requesting from the Commission. So this particular item is a petition to abandon a portion of Madison Street in downtown. Why are we requesting this? This is specifically tied to a project that we are calling, for now, the Central Plaza concept. I'm saying for now because part of the agreement between IBC and the City of Eagle Pass is to jointly come up with a name that both agencies agree with. So for now, I'm just going to refer to it as the Central Plaza project. The Central Plaza project is essentially a trade between IBC and City of Eagle Pass to swap land, to swap the parking lot of the IBC location downtown for Madison Street, which you guys see outlined here. The trade-off would be that we as a city would create a plaza using the space that is currently the parking lot. And the street would then in turn turn into their parking lot so that they don't miss any parking spaces. Now, this concept was created last year with the adoption of the Downtown Master Plan. The Downtown Master Plan was adopted through this commission back in November of 2022. So it's been roughly about 10 or so months since this was last adopted. So with that, the idea is to create green space, is to create just additional area to create more entertainment, to bring more stuff to the downtown area. In fact, I'll ask my Main Street manager to come up here and give a few descriptions of some of the projects or some of the events that we might be able to bring through the creation of this. These are just pictures. This is not necessarily the final design. This was just created during the Downtown Master Plan to just give an impression of what this could look like. Okay? This is just a view from the now being rebuilt Riskins building and looking into the plaza itself. So just real briefly, so far 17 notices have been sent out, 11 have been received back, 6 are still remaining, and 4 of them have actually already confirmed approval. Now, one of the questions was, what does the public think? How was the public involved in this? Through the Downtown Master Plan, there's something called a charrette, which essentially is a town hall meeting or a public meeting where we invite different departments, the business owners, property owners, merchants, and people that visit the downtown to help us in creating this whole Downtown Master Plan. Up here, what you'll see is just a few pictures of what that looked like a year ago when we created this plan in itself. The plan itself does cover a lot more than just this catalytic project, but again, just for the purposes of this particular item, I just wanted to give you guys a brief history behind it. So, as I mentioned, what we are asking for is the abandonment of Madison Street from the intersection of Query Madison to Madison and Main Street. Like I said, I want to give a brief couple minutes just to allow Sonata to kind of tell you why we are asking for this and how the community can benefit out of having this additional green space.
Hi, as Arturo mentioned, my name is Sanayla and I'm the Main Street Manager for our downtown. So if you're familiar with our program, our task is to encourage, promote our visitors, our tourists, our residents to our downtown through arts and culture, through events. So I don't know if you've ever attended any of our downtown events, but typically we will close off the 300 block. In the past, it was only the 300 block of Main Street, which is the section from Victor's Men Warehouse to the Aztec Theater. Lately, our events have grown in popularity, so we've also been having to close off the 400 block. So that kind of happened at the same time that it was recommended in our master plan to create a park right there. So we started playing with the idea on the 400 block to see how it would feel to utilize that extra lot as well. So it was a much safer environment. The concept of our park would have things like a stage to where it would be more of a permanent space for our downtown events. And a stage would be open to anybody to want to put on their own shows as well. So it's right across the street from our Art and Culture Center as well. So it would be something that can also promote the arts and go in conjunction with our platform, our goal to just keep promoting that out there. So definitely we just want a much more permanent space, but also have a green space, a central square for our downtown to have.
Thank you.
And then finally, just to give an update on where we're at as far as IBC. Currently, we're under hopefully final negotiations between that swap. But again, part of the process is to be able to shut down this portion of the street so that they can verify that the swap would obviously be legitimate. So tonight, what we're asking for is consideration of approval to shut down, or to abandon, to abandon a portion of Madison Street, or for us to be able to make that swap with IBCnet.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question. You referenced an agreement with IBC, between the city and IBC. Can you share some of those? Are there any other requirements from the city on the agreement?
Yeah, so IBC does ask for, of course, some of the things that do make sense, like security. They do ask that that the park is designed in such a way that obviously security can not roll around, I'm sorry, but kind of patrol the area, that it doesn't get left behind, and we start seeing things that would deter essentially tourism from there. They did ask that the gazebo stay not necessarily in place, but rather in the area. They also have a time capsule that they would like to keep there for when the time comes, so they can dig it back up and do the unveiling. They did ask for the rotating watch, or the rotating clock, to stay there.
The tree.
Oh, and the trees, yeah, that's a good one. So I don't know, like I said, tonight, I don't know if you guys have gone to our events, but the last fall event that we had last year, spectacular trees that we have there, and they turn into this bright orange and yellow tone, which of course IBC wants to keep. They think it's a really nice site, so there's a couple little different aspects that they are asking for. Again, for the sake of the item, because it is on the abandonment of the street, I do want to give information on the park, but specifically this is on the abandonment of the street. And then the last one that I can remember off the top of my head is the creation of a little kiosk for a bus stop. Currently, residents, not necessarily residents, but people from the outside are unaware that we have a bus system, primarily because there's not enough signage and not enough evidence that you can, wait for the bus there. So one of the other things that we want to implement in there is just a small kiosk for a bus stop. So.
Okay. So those are kind of the major kind of requirements that you can remember.
Exactly. Oh, and the one I mentioned at the beginning, that the name, of course, IBC and the city do have to jointly come up with the name. So.
Okay. And then you also covered it, I think, in your information, Article 4, Chapter 22. That mailing of the letters for the approval, are you required to get approval from all of them, or just whoever responds?
I don't know if you have any input on that.
The way we're raising, we don't have to get approval for anybody, as long as we send a certified mail, and as long as we receive the paper that they have received it, that will suffice.
Okay. I think my last question is, did you have any input from any other city departments as to how the closure would affect?
Right, so that's why I wanted to bring up the pictures, because we had a lot of departments. It's kind of hard to see on the pictures, but we even had people that, or not people, but agencies that helped us create the downtown master plan, like CVP. We had engineering, we had a lot of different departments citywide that were involved in the creation of the downtown master plan. Obviously, it was more of a general planning for all of downtown, but aspects of each individual project, catalytic projects, like the Riskins Building, the Central Plaza, Shelby Park, the Riverwalk, were discussed throughout these meetings. And again, their input was, they were there. Like I said, it's a little bit hard to see, but we have mayor and definitely several different city council members that were involved in the process of the creation of this. Yes, to answer your question, there was definitely a lot of involvement from other departments.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
No questions.
No.
No questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, or what is the, what should the motion read? Or what are you, what is being asked, I guess?
It's not an action item, correct?
Scroll back, just give me one moment.
So it would be, your position as an advisory committee to council, providing that recommendation, your recommendation to council. So if you agree with Mr. Marquez's presentation, we can make a motion to recommend city council proceed with the Madison Street abandonment.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect on the item?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Commissioner Gross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, presentation by Engineering Department and Public Works Department related to storm drainage city projects.
So we do have our city engineer, Mr. Danny McGee, and our public works director, Mr. Daniel Ibarra, here to do the presentation. I know a big part of why we brought this item before you is for Commissioner Salinas Sanchez. So we have everybody here to begin the discussion if you like, or we could potentially consider tabling to a meeting that she is here. It's up to you. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, sure.
I need to keep bringing people out.
I
if
know.
If they're here and they want to present.
You have a preference? Do you want to start this now, or do you?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm the City Engineer, Danny McGee, and this is Daniel Ibarra, our Public Works Director. We're at your disposal. We could give you the presentation now, or come back and repeat it, or just table it for next time. Either way, it doesn't matter to us. We're at your disposal.
I do know she wanted to be here.
Yeah.
All right. So if y'all don't mind.
I have no problem tabling it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're ready, so
Okay.
if we do it now or later, it's the same.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you very
No
much.
problem.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not really an action item, I guess, so do we need to table the item, or?
Would it be no action or table?
It looks like a no action, it's this presentation.
Yeah.
We'll just take no action. No action.
And we can table it for the next meeting? Like, I mean, we can move it to the next meeting? Agenda, okay.
But we don't need to specify anything right now.
No.
We don't need to take formal action on the item, I guess. Okay. All right, so there are no further items in the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Gross. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned, 6:21 p.m.